What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the JJSports podcast. I am Joey.
I'm Josh.
And let's get right into it. Our first topic of the day, of course, is basketball. And so, but obviously we got to talk about the All-Star game. Before we get into it, I just want to mention that I don't know if you noticed, Josh, but there were some people absent from the All-Star game. Two of them on the same team, and their coach was there, but they were not. I am talking about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, right? So they were out due to COVID protocols, right? So it's kind of a shame that we didn't get to see Embiid play in the game. But just so he doesn't feel left out, I do want to point out his last game before the All-Star game, so we'll consider it like his All-Star game, he scored 40 points against the best team in the West, the Jazz. So any thoughts on that before we get into the All-Star game?
Yeah, first of all, the Jazz aren't the best team in the West only. They're the best team in the entire NBA record-wise right now.
So even more
Let's just point that out. It's not just the West. They're the best team in the NBA. Second of all, props to Joel Embiid. I mean, there's nothing new here. He scored 16 more points in this game than he did the previous game against the Pacers. Jazz are a better team, and he scored a lot more points. And I don't know if that was because they were a lot more reliant on him or if that's because they just really didn't need him that much of the Pacers. I don't know. He's scoring a lot. He's still very young. He's just about entering the prime of his career, and he's already an all-star. I mean, he was one of the first few starter picks by Team Durant, and then he didn't end up playing. So unfortunately, that was the case. We'll get into the All-Star game, but yeah, I mean, great. 40 minutes, 40 points, and for a big man, I mean, he also shoots the 3-point shot pretty well. 19 rebounds, a couple blocks, a steal, 3 assists. He does it all. And he was one of those guys I mentioned before as who I would consider for the top centers in the league among him, Jokic, Gobert, maybe Karl Anthony Towns on the offensive side of things. And yeah.
Well, yeah, so I just point that out. Let's get into it. So do you want to talk about the challenges before, or do you want to just talk about the game, or what?
Let's just talk about the game because we'll recap the winners real quick. Domantas Sabonis won the skills challenge, and he was the runner-up last year, so there's really not much of a shocker there. It's unfortunate. I know you and I were both pulling for Julius Randle to win it, but I mean, Sabonis, look, he's been there before. He knows what it takes, and he came up just short last year. And he said in the interview that after he won it that this year, once he found out he was going to be substituting and getting in to the event, that he just wanted to make sure he finished it off, and he did. As for the 3-point competition, when you hear who won it, you're not going to be surprised. Stephen Curry, Joey. I mean,
best shooter ever.
Yeah, he is, in my opinion, the best shooter of all time, and I'm sure a lot of other people right now. And yeah, obviously,
Mike Conley
Mike Conley came in and he wasn't an original contestant in the contest. So I do want to give him props for coming in out of nowhere. People are like, oh, it's just some random guy to replace Devin Booker, who was originally supposed to do it. And Conley really put on a nice show. Unfortunately, Stephen Curry just put on a better show in his case. So props to Curry for winning the 3-point competition, and then the slam dunk competition. Obi Toppin, a runner-up. I mean, look, that's still pretty good for your rookie season to get there. And this is not out of bias. This is just me, what I like to see in the dunk competition. I don't think that Simons deserved to win it. He went up and basically, yeah, he has hops, obviously. That's how he got there. But I like it when there's a lot more skill, when with crazy ball movement, through the legs, over the back, jumping over people, stuff like that. Not like a rant. He tried to kiss the rim and he completely failed.
Yeah, it's weird. If he kissed it, I'm like, oh,
really
maybe.
If he would have kissed the rim, then yeah, I could argue, okay, he kissed the rim in the process and he got high enough to do that. But no, I know that Toppin had, Toppin failed the attempt before, but it on paper didn't go down as an attempt. So I mean, I don't know if the judges factored that in or not, but either way, I mean, he lost by the slightest of margins. Out of 5 judges, 3 voted in Avery Simons' favor and 2 voted in Toppin's favor. So either way, props to all who competed. And
and then the game. So this
then
game,
the actual game, which was
yeah.
the main event.
I mean, Team Durant seemed like they were doing okay, had some big scores. But let's be honest, man. You look at the starting five,
Yeah,
there's
I
no
didn't think
way
it
they
would
were
have
gonna
been a
lose. Like it just
competition.
wasn't possible.
I don't think it would have been a competition even if Kevin Durant was there, to be quite frank. I mean, I know like he's definitely been amazing this year and he's played like Kevin Durant, was hyped up, but to me, something just feels different about him. And I know the Achilles injury and everything. And Joe, you say you don't come back the same way, but he has defied a lot of odds, to be fair. I just feel it's with the amount of talent he has around him that he doesn't seem like that player. Like, and what's it called? And the reason it was different in Golden State is because he didn't have that Achilles injury. Now that he has that Achilles injury and he's got that talent, Kyrie Irving around him, now they brought in James Harden, and we'll get to another free agent they brought in very, very recently. But now that he has all those three guys around him and now himself, and Joe Harris plays well off the bench, and I know no more Karis LeVert because he was part of the trade that between the Pacers and Rockets shipped James Harden over to the Brooklyn Nets. But Spencer Dinwiddie's not there. But if he comes back this season, I don't think he will. They're saying maybe very late in the postseason. If the Nets can make it that far, he might have a shot of returning. And even like not the guys necessarily though who have a name for themselves right now as big as it used to be, the guys who have in the past, like DeAndre Jordan, are still serviceable to some extent. And Durant just doesn't seem that, as special as he once was. Don't get me wrong. He's still phenomenal. He's a top 10 player in the game, hands down. It's just, there's something different to him. So I don't think it really would have made that big a difference had Durant been on this team, personally.
I mean, yeah.
Let me rephrase that. I think it would have been closer, but I don't think it would have given them enough
I
to
mean, just look at
win.
the
That's
scores here. Like you have your obvious MVP in Giannis, and then you have like the greatest shots ever by Steph, and Damian Lillard hit some crazy shots. Steph and Chris Paul giving each other dunks. That was crazy. Seeing both of those guys dunk. I didn't think I'd ever see that in a game. So
yeah, no, that was
yeah. So that was
the
really cool.
shocker for me is that I don't know. It's not really a shocker, but like what I guess would be the shocker is the guy who's having the best season out of anyone by far this year was like the second lowest scorer on his team, and that's Nikola Jokic. I mean, LeBron only had 4 points for crying out loud, and it was his team. So
You don't get it. LeBron just wanted to play GM and watch his team work.
yeah, I guess that is true. But I mean, like for crying, he played the least. I mean, did he? I don't like. I
He played
wasn't paying
13
attention that
minutes.
much during the game to like the time in each guy. But did he play the least out of his team?
Yeah.
Both him and Rudy Gobert played 13 minutes. But Gobert had more stats than LeBron did. Like LeBron was the captain of this team, and I know like he did want to theoretically just be the GM, let his team play, and he got in on some of the action. But it's just I don't know. That just seems a little weird to me that like he was the captain and he had like I think his stats might have been the worst, like slash line wise. Like he had 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 points in 13 minutes. Gobert only played in 13 minutes, but he had 7 rebounds and assists and hit double digits in points. It's just crazy. Oh,
It's
sorry,
not that
Sabonis.
crazy. And
Sabonis played more than him and had some worse stats, but whatever. We're not here to judge about that. It's just to, the looks of how it is. By no means do we think these players are bad because of this, because this is not like it's not the same game you see these guys playing every single day. So,
I mean, yeah, it's an all-star game. So do you really expect that much competition? Not really, which is why they changed it up, making every quarter its own game. So,
yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the last piece of basketball news we're going to cover is that the Nets apparently are not done with free agency, although I don't know if this is really going to help them that much. They, after being bought up by the Detroit Pistons, Blake Griffin agreed to sign a deal with the Brooklyn Nets. He's going to play the rest of the season after
And
he
this
gets
was,
waivers. So,
yeah.
yeah, thoughts, Josh?
This was the guy I alluded to when I said that, they have Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And, this is something I actually forgot to touch on is that, this is before I mentioned the name, though, and I didn't want to hint any more than I already did. So Blake Griffin, yes, of course, he's a former Los Angeles Clippers player, as well as the guy he's going to rejoin now, DeAndre Jordan, as I mentioned before. So yeah, like that's the next guy they're bringing in who has made a name for himself in the past and still is. I mean, he's not having a great season, but neither are the Pistons. So is it really like evident that he's not having a good season, or is it more his team? And he's not, but like the atmosphere around him doesn't exactly help him. That's something I personally factor into a lot when I come to think of players and like where I would rank them if I were to rank them, or how I would view their play style. So for example, I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but actually I'll save it because I was going to say different sport, and we'll get to it later. Either way, it's not like the sport has nothing to do. It's the atmosphere and everything. I'll get to it later. The bottom line is, though, that I think Blake Griffin is definitely going to be due to bounce back. And now that they've built a winning atmosphere in Brooklyn with Harden and Kyrie and KD and DeAndre Jordan, who's still serviceable. I mean, he's like the lead big man now because as well as I mentioned, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen is not a Brooklyn Net anymore. So, that it's what they have. And now I'm sure Blake Griffin is probably, I don't want to say I'm sure, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the starting lineup. I mean, like, what do you think, Joe? Do you think he'll be in this? Like, I don't know what it says here, but do you think he will be?
Yeah, first of all, it's just John Jordan. Karis LeVert is traded away, not on the team.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Like Jared
And
Allen.
like, if Blake Griffin wants to play center, that's the only reason. Because I don't see a reason for him on the team. He's a power forward. That's that's not his. But like, I'm trying to who's
KD is on that team.
KD is like the power forward. So like, what are we doing
Right.
here?
I mean, they could put him at small. I thought KD plays both.
Then
small
what's Joe Harris doing? Like, I don't understand.
He could come off the bench,
You're
provide
gonna
that
pay
offense.
Joe Harris that much money to come off the bench? It's like
I don't know.
You overpay for the guy. You might as well start. Like, it's just stupid otherwise.
It's true.
Basically, you paid for a bench guy because you don't have a bench because you traded your bench away for
exactly. Yeah, I don't really know what to think then. I mean, like
this guy,
I would like to see him start.
He's had a lot of injuries. He was technically like the only really good player left on Detroit. So now Detroit's officially going to be like the worst team in the league now because they got nobody. So
they have Jeremy Grant,
and that's it. That's all you can say.
It's on nothing. Yeah, I mean, they had Derrick Rose, but we all know what happened.
We got Derrick Rose, so they don't have anything. They got nothing to look forward to. So
roughly nothing. Yeah, it stinks. But on the bright side, for Detroit, along with their hockey team, there's nowhere to go but up at this point. So
their football team or their baseball team.
Yeah,
any Detroit team.
That's rough. Like, I literally didn't think about that. I really didn't think about that.
They have the worst sports city in America. It's got like right now.
At least today, yeah. No, definitely not historically.
You can't feel that bad because let's just be honest. Detroit has had a lot of good fortune. I mean, you had the Tigers in 2 World Series in this century,
and a playoff team for most of it.
Verlander, like he was on that team, You had Miggy. You've had Miggy's career. That's great. The Lakers not so long ago, in the NBA Finals. And the Red Wings had a huge dynasty, 25-year playoff streak. The Lions, though, the less said the better. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, whatever. It just sucks that all teams are not successful at the same time. It's not fair. But the point is, I don't really think it's a big deal because Blake Griffin has not really been Blake Griffin for a long time, in my opinion. I think ever since getting traded to Detroit, he was okay, but he wasn't like the same, because he never had that Chris Paul Lob City type guy with him,
Yeah. No, it's true. And
then again, he has Kyrie Irving and James Harden. Maybe they'll bring Lob City back. Maybe. I don't know.
Who knows? Okay. I mean, something you just mentioned that's interesting before we end our basketball segment. It's that James Harden and Chris Paul were actually teammates for a little bit of time. So maybe he knows the same play style. No, not with Blake Griffin, but maybe Harden knows from Paul as well, or Griffin could say, I used to do this with Chris Paul, and Chris Paul was obviously a huge piece of that team with Blake Griffin. Those two were they had built insane chemistry together. So yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah, it's funny.
you could
You
be
just
right.
reminded me of something. James Harden has actually played with a lot of Clippers, maybe more Clippers than Rockets. Like he's played with Lou Williams, Patrick Beverly. I think Harrell was also on the Rockets, like when he came in that trade for Chris Paul. Um, I think Eric Gordon used to be on the Clippers.
I think he was on the Pelicans. I don't know if he was on the Clippers.
Hold on a second.
Now you're gonna look it up.
I'm looking
Okay,
up.
I'm not gonna
But
say. Look, I'm not
just
saying
looking
you were
up
wrong.
Clippers.
I'm just saying I knew he was on the Pelicans before he was there. I have no idea if he was on the Clippers at
Yeah, he
any.
was. He was on the Clippers first. Okay, yeah, I was right. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, the point is like, yeah, he's been with a lot of Clippers. Maybe it's like some good luck charm or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't
Now
know.
DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin.
Yeah, but same thing with DeAndre Jordan. Like they're not the same they used to be. They're not the
Yeah.
same players. So like, I don't know. Maybe they can bring the magic back together, or maybe not. Um, we'll have to see. But I think that brings it into our basketball topic. You agree, Josh?
I do agree, Joey.
Okay, so now we're on baseball, and before I get into it, you want to say anything about baseball, Josh? Just spring training thoughts or anything, or you got it?
No, not really. I mean, like, I'll touch on how I think my New York Mets are doing, and they're doing pretty decent. They haven't really gotten blown out yet, and they haven't exactly absolutely destroyed any teams yet. Actually, no, they kind of were blown out by the Cardinals. They gave up well over 10 runs, and not that they struggled to score, but they just, yeah, they couldn't play defense as well as the Cardinals did. It's like the worst thing when two teams are playing bad and one just plays a little less bad than the other. So anyway, yeah, that. But I do want to point out Francisco Lindor got his first hit of spring training and only, I think, his second start. He really hasn't been playing much in spring training. A lot like the other guys like Michael Conforto and Pete Alonso and Dominic Smith, the guys who they know are going to pretty much be a guaranteed lock to start and don't want to risk them getting injured in spring training. It's more just a little warm up. So they're going to play those guys a little less frequently and let the guys on the bench or who they would want to see on their bench fight it out for those couple spots. And obviously the rotation. So yeah, I mean, like, that's all I really have to say. And really nothing to add.
I mean, yeah, I don't take spring training so seriously. I mean, sometimes, like should you take it seriously? Because some games you're not even playing your real players there. You're playing some like AAA, AA people. So I just go to the most recent game. We played the Phillies and we just clobbered them in one play. Brett Gardner hit a grand slam and that's all she wrote. He hit and it was over.
And they're the fourth place Phillies. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of sad though, because like when you look at the like this is
when you look at that lineup, they should not be a fourth place. I mean, like,
not this lineup, but like
not this
some
lineup,
players.
but what their regular season lineup should look like. They should.
You got your McCutchen, your Didi, your Bryce, your John Segura, and JT. So like it should be better.
Anywhere.
JT didn't play today, but yeah, like point is like it should be better than they are.
Yeah.
But let's get into the first topic today. We're gonna keep baseball kind of short because nothing's going on. I have plans for next week, but right now, so the first one really exciting. The Brewers signed Jackie Bradley Jr. What do you think?
I think a lot of people are sleeping on Milwaukee, is what I think. Yeah, they made the playoffs last year, and they were one of the weaker teams that made it in. They were under 500 with their record last year. I don't remember if they were 1 or 2 games under. I know they were either 29-31 or like 28-32, maybe even 27-33. But either way, the bottom line is they were an ugly team last year, and they snuck in because there were just that many teams that were much uglier than they were. So with that being said, if we go over each position, let's see. At first base, it's a little hard to tell. I don't know if Keston Hiura is going to be moving over there because now you have Colton Wong playing second base, or I don't know 100% what their strategy is. I would assume that maybe Hiura is going to move over to first. You'll have Wong at second, so you've got a good bat at first, a decent bat at second, but very good defense. Is Arcia good enough to be the shortstop every day? I think defensively, yeah, but I don't think he gives much offensively. And third base, I don't even remember who they have there at this point.
Travis Shaw.
I thought he was with the Blue Jays now.
I don't know, man. They always switch Travis Shaw, Eric Thames.
Okay, well, bottom line is like whatever. It's no one that spectacular. And the outfield is where you get your loaded lineup now, or where the rest of it gets loaded because you've got Yelich, who's going to be an MVP candidate. Yeah, he's going to bounce back. Tough luck to everyone else who thinks he's not the player we saw for those 2 straight years. He's going to bounce back. Great players find a way to do it. And he's played too well to be considered just a guy who had a very, very like narrow window because he was getting better every year in Miami and he was eventually going to lock that potential. But with a bad team in Miami, you just knew he needed a change of scenery and he struck a gold in Milwaukee. I think he's due for a bounce back here. I think he will bounce back. And on top of that, you've also got Lorenzo Cain, who I don't know where to put now in the outfield. He's probably going to move over to left field if I had to guess, because now you bring in Jackie Bradley Jr., who's younger and probably has a little more versatility to him. So
that's I think the question. That's the question. Who's
going to get center field? And I'm sure whoever gets center, the other one is going to get left. That's just the way it is.
But, so who are you taking out?
I want to say that Lorenzo Cain moves over to left, but I feel like he's cemented himself in center as the Brewers center fielder. No, so here's how I'll say it. I think Cain will start as the center fielder, but I feel like if it's not going as well as it could be, or even if it's or if they're doing really well and maybe they want to see what Bradley gives them, if they could afford to lose a game here and there or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you shouldn't want to, but
but Josh, I'm talking about they have 4 outfielders. You forgot about Avisal Garcia.
Oh, I don't think that. I mean, like, I don't think his bat is definitely a plus over Jackie Bradley Jr. and some would even argue Lorenzo Cain with the power he possesses. But I don't think he is over Cain. I think Cain is too good of an average hitter. Like not an average, like a batting average hitter. Not that he's an average hitter. So I don't know. I would probably see. I really don't know. That'd be tough, Or maybe you could alternate. Like, I'm sure. I don't think they would have a set fielder in the outfield except for Christian Yelich, and I think they would determine whatever happens between the other 3 guys. One guy might come off the bench, or maybe they start him halfway through and they make a substitution to bolster up defense or to give them a better chance offensively. So I don't know. Of those 3, I think Jackie Bradley Jr. is the weakest offensive producer. And it's not because he can't produce, it's that he's way too inconsistent. We've seen months where he'll go ice cold and then months where he'll be absolutely on fire and there won't be a guy on the planet, not even like Jacob deGrom or Garrett Cole or Max Scherzer or Steven Strasburg or Devin Williams, his own teammate, or Josh Hader or Aroldis Chapman, Kirby Yates, any of those guys who'd be able to get him out. It just wouldn't be possible. The problem is, you see maybe 1 or 2 of those months at best out of him, and then the other 3.5 to 4 months are just like almost nothing. Like not almost nothing, but he's just too inconsistent that I'd want him in the game late. In just like an any day role, for an offensive substitution. That's where I'd go with Avisal Garcia. So, yeah. Anyway, and then obviously the thing we didn't talk about is the pitching. I mean, Brandon Woodruff is a lock at number 1, and then the bullpen is just, Devin Williams won the Rookie of the Year hands down, and Josh Hader is arguably still the best closer in baseball. So, yeah, they've got their team, and I think that they are done making moves. I think almost every team is pretty much done making moves. I don't know if there's going to be minor league signings or anything like what we've seen over the last month or so. But with all that being said, I think that the Brewers could legitimately, I know this is going to sound crazy, but they could legitimately finish in first place if all goes well for them this year.
Is that really a lock, though? I mean, like, they don't have as strong.
I don't think it's a lock because it's easy. It's definitely the worst division in baseball. I was about to say least competitive, but the thing is, because it's the worst division, it's probably the most competitive division to win first place, because even the Reds, in my opinion, who are the 4th place team in that division, have a chance to win it. That offense.
Do you think the Reds and the Cardinals have a better rotation than the Brewers?
I do, but I think that the Brewers I get this feeling that the Brewers play matchups a little bit better than those 2 teams.
But like the Cardinals just got Nolan Arenado.
I know, like I don't think if this sets it straight, I think the Cardinals, I would pick the Cardinals to win this division, but it wouldn't surprise me if Milwaukee just pulled it out of their ass. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, I don't think it would surprise you either, to be honest, Joey.
If they pulled out of their ass, yeah, but I feel like even a team that good would not do so well in the playoffs. I just don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think either.
Because they wouldn't be playing against
I'm talking about getting there by winning the division. I think St. Louis is going to win this division. It won't shock me, though, if Milwaukee ends up getting it by a game or two. Now, if they win it by 5 to 10 games, not 5. 5 is even, that's still a little small. If they win it by like 10 games, and like they have 15 to 20 more wins than the team in second place, that will surprise me. But if it's a complete shootout and they just happen to end up on top with a little bit of luck, that won't surprise me.
Okay, so you're seeing good things. Okay, so before we get into the next topic and our last one, what do you think this signifies the official end of the era for the Boston Red Sox?
Define an era. What do you mean?
When they were just winning.
Their level of competitiveness and
they're just playoff bound all the time. If not World Series, then playoff bound.
I really don't think it's the end. I mean, they brought back Alex Cora, and I know he had help along the way, but I mean, you got to take into account even last year, not last year. I keep thinking last year's 2019. In the 2019 season, while they weren't a playoff team, they were not that far off from making it to the playoffs, the wild card to be more specific. And I think it should be known, they were what, like 86 and 76? Oh no, they were 84 and 78. Sorry. So they had a decent season. Obviously, they still had Mookie Betts back then, and you had Andrew Benintendi playing like Andrew Benintendi was supposed to be playing. Like that up and coming star that they had seen the first couple of years, first 2.5, 3 years of his career in Boston. And obviously Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, and Jackie Bradley Jr., the man we just saw traded away, and Mitch Moreland, who was a very, very threatening first baseman with power in his bat. And obviously, I think one of the biggest pieces on that team pitching-wise, Chris Sale. But now no David Price, no more Mookie Betts. They didn't sign Springer, and they lost Jackie Bradley Jr. No more Kevin Pillar. He's with the Mets now, and he was a big piece of that team last year. No more Benintendi, and it's not even like they got anything crazy back for him. They got prospects out of it. So I don't know what to think, but I can't count him out that easily yet because they still have Rafael Devers, and they still have Mitch Moreland, who, despite his aging, is still a pretty legitimate bat, I would say, at least at first base. And you still have, of course, the golden goose right now of those big 3Bs before in Benintendi, Betts, and Bogaerts, Xander Bogaerts. And the pitching is still there. Chris Sale should be coming back this year. Eduardo Rodriguez, who didn't pitch last year because he opted out, should be here. Nathan Eovaldi should be coming back. And the bullpen is probably the shakiest part of that rotation.
Yeah, Josh, I gotta tell you, he's not on the Sox anymore. Mitch Moreland.
I thought man. When you say it, it's gonna
A's.
Yeah, I heard.
Yes.
Either way,
so I would say it's just Bogaerts, Devers, and Sale. I don't think.
I mean, we didn't talk. I didn't talk about the fact though that Alex Verdugo was the guy who replaced Mookie Betts, and I do think that he is a top outfielder in the game, and he's super young. He's only getting better. His first season was pretty solid with the Red Sox, and the best is yet to come. In a weird season, it was a solid season for everyone, and he showed promise in LA. Now he's showing even more promise in Boston. I think he's going to thrive there. So I can't count him out just yet. Especially they didn't have their manager from last year, obviously suspended, and not for good reasons. That's why obviously anyone would be suspended, but that's a huge hit. Ron Renicky used to be, a fairly solid manager. Last year, though, coming into a completely new system that he had never seen enough before to not even having played against them, because he was a manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. So it's not even like he had seen Boston much of his time. So I can understand why they were so bad last year or as bad as they were. I don't expect them to be a playoff team at a lock this year, but I just feel like there is something about this team that they could somehow, some way, miraculously be in contention for a wild card spot. I'm not saying they'll get it, but I think that they could put up somewhat of a fight throughout most of the year to keep themselves close enough that maybe they can make a push. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. If that makes you feel better and you think if you think I'm psychotic for thinking they even have a chance, that's what I think they have a chance for, to potentially be in position. But I don't think that they will be making the playoffs if that gives you a better understanding of where I think they're at.
I mean, I gotta agree. Somewhat. Obviously, they have a chance, but like, come on, man, it's not gonna happen. They don't have a
Not over the Rays, Blue Jays, and Yankees. I don't think that's going to happen. But I would like to see them kind of put up a fight to prove last year is not the team they are. I'm okay without them making the playoffs, but I don't want with that team, I wouldn't want to see I like most of those players. I like Bogarts, I like Devers, I like Verdugo, Chris Sale, Jackie Bradley Jr. and Andrew Benintendi aren't there anymore. And I did like those guys as players as well. So I don't think, I wouldn't want to see them fail to the extent where they're the worst team in the American League, and I don't think that'll be the case because it's going to be pretty hard to do a lot worse than the Orioles and the Texas Rangers and the Detroit Tigers. But, I don't want to see them that low down in the league, so that's why for me, if they could keep it competitive enough to be in contention for a spot and then miss out, I'm kind of okay with that, to see that. Because that team isn't deserving of a playoff spot right now. They have to prove themselves again. But I don't know. I guess we'll see where it goes this year. It's going to be an interesting year for Boston fans from who are rooting on the Red Sox this year.
Yeah, it's a good pickup. And then the last one, which is the one we were calling. I feel like after this, we're not going to have any more free agents to talk about. So this might be officially the last free agent. This is the one we were talking about for a while. Although I will admit it comes off kind of as a panic move, and I'm not a fan of where it happened. But Astros lost their pitcher, Framber Valdez, which kind of resulted into my opinion as a huge panic move to sign the last big free agent pitcher or the last big free agent. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about, of course, Jake Odorizzi, reaching a 2-year deal with the Houston Astros. Josh, any thoughts on this deal?
Good move by them. They did, they did something that makes sense. Obviously, it helps that they signed Odorizzi. Obviously, it's it is a panic move. I definitely don't think there's anything to argue about that. But it's not the wrong move. So, yeah, that's what I think.
I don't know, man. I hate moves like this. I'm like, you're telling me you would not go after him if you didn't get your guy injured. I'm just like,
right. That's fair. Who knows? Maybe they really were thinking, because Justin Verlander is going to be out for most of this year, if not all of it. So, I guess we'll see. I don't like to see Framber Valdez go. He was an exciting pitcher to watch last year. I know not for you necessarily, Joey, because you're a Yankee fan. And I know how you feel about Houston, especially most recent years. Me being a Mets fan didn't have really anything to affect me with team wise. So I feel your pain and I understand it. And obviously I'm not happy for the Astros anymore. At first, before we knew this whole cheating scandal was going down, I was like, great, it's their first title in a long time. A lot of these players worked for it. Altuve, Bregman in his rookie year, Gurriel, Springer, Correa. And now it's just like, wow, you sunk from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, especially after Hurricane Harvey and everything, and they brought joy back to the city. And it's just baffling to me how they still haven't officially had that title stripped yet. And those suspensions that the teams have served, with AJ Hinch and Alex Cora, they're both already back in baseball, and we're not going to get farther than that. And then, you went out and for another 2 years after that, you were still a juggernaut. And while they lost in the ALCS and in the World Series, back-to-back years, still they were a threat. They took the opportunity away from other teams who had been playing a fair game. A lot of people are going to be arguing teams like the Oakland Athletics should have won that division theoretically because, and they lost in the wild card round because they were set up that way. Anyway, with all that being said, like Framber Valdez was an exciting pitcher for me to watch last year. I enjoyed watching him. You know, he's got that very, very strong slider, and he could bring 97 to 100 miles an hour on his fastball against you. He reminds me a lot of Jacob deGrom, you know, with his pitch style. I'm not saying like he has the same mechanics. He's not that good. I'm saying, though, like his repertoire and what he has to offer as a pitcher, pitch-wise. So, I mean, seeing him go down was a little, it's a little rough for me to see, but I like Jake Odorizzi, and I really like what he's done the last few years with Minnesota. I know shortened season in 2020, but I mean, he's still a very solid pitcher, Joey. He definitely doesn't hurt the Astros here. And I think that he's going to make the perfect replacement for a guy like Valdez, especially over what he's experienced the last couple of years.
So now the rotation would be Odorizzi, Greinke, Lance McCullers Jr., and two other guys I'm not familiar with.
Javier and Urquidy. So Jose Urquidy, I'm not as familiar with. I do know. I do know of him a little bit. Christian Javier is a very young pitcher, and he has electrifying stuff. They compare him a lot to a guy like Jordan Hicks, but as a starting pitcher. If you don't know who Jordan Hicks is, Joey, he's that reliever on the Cardinals who throws triple digits with ease. And he doesn't throw triple digits, but he's got that insane jump on his fastball where he'll be hitting consistent 99 to 100, maybe even 101. And he's got a wipeout changeup and breaking ball. So similar to Hicks with his changeup and slider.
I mean, this kind of thing just bothers me the whole because why even have a full spring training? Like there's no point. You know, like there's a pandemic, like obviously you have the season, but like you're already doing a full season. I don't know why you need to have a whole spring training, especially with like your real players. Like why can't you just have like your AAA or whatever play? Like why do you have to have your actual like starter play so that this could happen? Like it's such a waste, you know, like how would how would Angel fans feel if Mike Trout got injured in a spring training game? Like I think they'd be pretty pissed off. Like
yeah, that would be pissed. I would be pissed for sure. I know that if I was an Angels fan.
Exactly. So I'm just why is this like? It should be more of a preseason thing where like it's not so many starters play. You know, like then again, I get it. You know, there are fans and everything.
You want to get them warmed up, and you want
them. I got it. You want to come off rusty. I know, but like, why can't you at least do a thing where like it just starts like the first inning with those guys and then just don't play them anymore? Play like relievers or something. Like
I really don't know. Maybe they don't want to bring that much stress onto the guys trying to make the team because then they'll be overworked coming into the season when they're expected to take a role. I don't know, but you know,
I don't know. It's just frustrating when you play like a meaningless game and one of your star players, like your star pitcher, just like gets injured and he's out. And that's it. You know, like it just sucks. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm done talking about baseball. Do you agree, Josh?
Yeah, I think we should move on. Because we do have something we're going to try.
We're going to talk about football, and well, basically, a lot of things happened. So there were like 1 million cuts and releases. I'm not sure if there's a difference. You could let me know, but a lot of really, I don't know about amazing players, but definitely players got cut. So first, let me do a few. Okay, so hold on. So hold on a second. I just want to pull this up. Okay, so what really upset me is that like a lot of like players of mine who like and I know, you know, they were just cast aside and just said, hey, you know, pandemic, we've got
to cut salaries. So
I know it's just like that kind of stuff sucks, you know. I'm like, why can't you just ask them for a pay cut, you know, is what I'm saying. So here's the first one I want to talk about. So the Saints, who have, as you know, the highest like cap in the world, like they're so over, so they have to get rid of so many people. They cut Josh Hill and Jared Cook. I don't know if you know Josh Hill so well, but we all know Jared Cook, man. Like dude was playing like one of the best tight ends in the league. So like, and they just let him go. So what do you think about this, Josh?
I think the Saints are going to get what they deserve, and they're going to be a lot worse offensively this coming year. I know a lot of people are saying Josh Hill is more of a blocking tight end, and I actually do know quite a bit about Josh Hill. I don't know if you would have expected that, Joey, but Josh Hill really made his way onto the scene back during the 2017-18 season when he was brought up for the playoffs when they expanded the roster, and he was really doing some special things. He was blocking well. He was catching passes in the right situations. He had some key touchdowns in that playoff run, which unfortunately ended for the Saints with the Minneapolis Miracle and the crazy catch by Stephon Diggs and the Case Keenum throwing all that stuff in the second round. But on their run to clinching a playoff spot, and in the first round when they won at home against the Panthers, he was great for them. Jared Cook hadn't been on the team at that point. He was with Green Bay, I think, just before. Right. And then the previous season, and then the season after, as I mentioned with Josh Hill, is when Jared Cook made his way onto the scene with the New Orleans Saints. And they went to the NFC Championship game and lost to Cook's former team, the Los Angeles Rams. Now, he's cut. And I don't like the fact, I mean, both of them are cut, and I don't like that. I think they could both make, not going to say huge impacts for both. Hill is still getting, still showing his game more as a pass catcher these days, but definitely a force in the blocking game. So I would like to see them both signed. I think that there are a number of teams that could go to that could use them. They're both, I don't know if Jared Cook is necessarily the Jared Cook he was back in the day, but he seems to be starting to piece it back together, and he's still very much serviceable. And I would really like to see him on another team. I mean, he deserves it. He had an excellent season this past year, and same with Josh Hill. Not as much offensively, more in the blocking game and the protection of his quarterback, or whether it's setting up, and helping to create the space for pass catchers and running backs. But I still would like to see him signed. I think he can make an impact on any team in a positive way. And for the Saints, they're losing out. And I know a lot of people don't think they're losing out big, but I think they are losing out big. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it. I don't know what you know as much about Josh Hill either.
Taysom Hill, I guess you're now the new tight end. I don't know, like.
Yeah, I guess he theoretically is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I can't get behind the fact if you're gonna cut one, I can understand. Like, well, not even one. If you can cut Josh Hill, I'd understand because Jared Cook is a lot more valuable to that team. No disrespect to Josh Hill, but to cut them both is just a little ridiculous in my opinion. I know you have to cut salary, but he was one of your better players. Both of them, were better players for your team, were among the better players for your team, and you decided to cut them. Whatever. I'm not running that organization, and I don't know what their intentions are, but I don't think that they made the greatest move they could have, the best move they could have made.
I mean, yeah. And a lot of what always wondered me is like, why is it always the tight end, because it happens in a few teams. It also happened in Seattle, where the Seahawks released Greg Olsen and Josh Gordon, who's had a lot of just chances and he keeps getting screwed,
Yeah, Josh Gordon, I don't really care about at this point.
Greg Olsen. Sorry, let me rephrase. He didn't get cut, or I don't know if they cut him first or whatever, but he retired technically. Like he's signing a 1-day contract with the Panthers and then retiring. But anyway, what do you think about that? Just like the end of an era for Greg Olsen, most likely.
Yeah, Josh Gordon, I'll just quickly say I don't really care about him at this point. He brought on himself everything that's happened, and there's nothing more to say about that. As for Greg Olsen, he was one of my favorite tight ends to watch over the last decade. He's really been amazing from his time with the Bears to his time with the Panthers and now the Seahawks. The good news is that I'm excited to see him in the broadcast booth because he will be joining Fox very soon. So I'll be excited to see that. And yeah, I mean, like, I don't know about you, but I'll miss watching him as a player, Joey. And he had a lot of really memorable games and made an impact on whatever team he played for, whether it was the Bears or the Seahawks or I think most notably now, I think it's safe to say that he was definitely most known for his time on the Panthers. And more than just a player, like a great leader when he, the way he was able to set an example as he became older and gained more experience and became a veteran over time when he started playing with the younger guys, even with guys like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf on the Seahawks, or even the running back in Chris Carson. And he kind of showed, because as a blocker and a pass catcher as well, so sharing the tips with with catch passing with the two receivers and Lockett and Metcalf, or blocking with discussing where he wanted to go with Chris Carson, or even back in Carolina when he was with younger guys like Calvin Benjamin still and DJ Moore, and the running back in Christian McCaffrey when he was in his rookie year. Greg Olsen was the tight end on that team. I think that was the last year, or the second to last year he played with the Panthers before he moved on to Seattle. So he set, more than just a great player, like he set a very good example for his teammates who were up and coming into the league. So props to him for that. I'll miss watching him as a player, but it's not going to end because we'll get to hear his thoughts from the broadcast booth. I don't know what you think about that, Joey, but
I mean, last time a tight end was in the broadcast booth, it forced him to come out of retirement and play again.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm talking about whatever the hell that guy's name is. Why do I forget his name? Shit. It's going to bother me for a second. Hold on a second.
I'm also
Jason Witten.
Witten. Yeah, I was going to say Witten.
Okay.
Because he came and played for the Raiders this past year. But yeah, I don't think Olsen's going to have that. I think he's going to stick with it. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, like it's just tight ends are just getting screwed, man. And the last one, it's not the last cut, but definitely the last tight end I want to talk about. And this is a big one. I was really shocked. The Vikings cut Kyle Rudolph or released.
Yeah, this was a very shocking move. Saves them $5.1 million. Rudolph is a very good tight end still, in my opinion. Just last year, he was making the game-winning catch in the end zone for them, which upset the Saints and moved them on to the NFC divisional round matchup against the 49ers. And I don't think that he's done yet. I think he still has a lot more to go. This is a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I'm not going to say it makes that offense that much worse, because you still have Dalvin Cook, who's an amazing running back, and you've still got Justin Jefferson, who broke out as a rookie, and you've still got Adam Thielen, and Kirk Cousins is still a very good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But this is a bit of a head scratcher for me with letting Rudolph go. Maybe they feel confident enough to be able to do something special with that offense still without him. But yeah, I mean, I can't predict. And we've been talking about all these guys getting cut and where we haven't even spoken about where a good fit would be for them. I don't know where a good fit would really be for any of these guys that are still going to be playing, at least. Also, we mentioned he's going to be a broadcaster from now on in color commentary. But as for Jared Cook, Josh Hill, and now Kyle Rudolph, I really don't know where any of these guys are going to end up.
I mean,
it's too hard to
I have a thought. I have two thoughts. Who's the Rams tight end?
They have two. So they have Gerald Everett and they have Tyler Higbee.
Do you think any of the tight ends I mentioned would be better than those guys?
Maybe Kyle Rudolph, but I don't think that
all right. I
don't know if Jared Cook would want a reunion with the Rams. I don't think the Rams would want to go.
And then the other one,
I don't think they'd want to replace. I think they're happy with that tight end duo because they're effective. They may not be blowing up offensive numbers. They may not be both or even combined catching passes and scoring touchdowns. They might not be receiving for more than 100 yards a game and scoring 2-3 touchdowns a game, combined between the two, because there's not really a set number one. People thought it was going to be Higbee, but then Everett started to play well and they started platooning the two a little more evenly. So yeah, I think they like where they are. I don't think that the Rams are looking for a place to tight end.
The other one I was thinking about was the Colts. I don't know.
The Colts is interesting because Mo Alley Cox is not I don't think he's the greatest tight end either, but I don't know if they're necessarily looking to, because maybe Josh Hill, you would think because of the age, he's still a fairly young player, but Mo Alley Cox is a much better. He's also a very good pass blocker and a pass protection tight end. He's a very good run blocker. And his receiving game is decent. It's nothing crazy. His receiving game is better than Josh Hill. I don't know whose blocking game is better between the two of Mo Alley Cox and Josh Hill, but I think that Mo Alley Cox's receiving game is better. As for Kyle Rudolph and Jared Cook, I don't know what the Colts would want to do regarding either of those two guys. Yeah.
And then
I don't think they'd be so fast to replace Mo Alley Cox. To bring one of those guys in, maybe if they were to just sign Josh Hill, though, I think that might be the best move out of all the three guys left.
And of course, I thought about a team that just has an amazing offense, the Bills. I thought they don't have any.
Well, they also, I think, similar to the Rams, though, they're comfortable where they are with the tight end position with Knox and Eifert.
And I think that even like the Dolphins or Patriots could use tight ends too, because actually no, not the Dolphins. That's Mike Gesicki.
Not the Dolphins, right? Yeah, Gesicki.
The Patriots though, I don't know who their tight end is. So they could definitely. I feel like they're going to sign one of these guys for sure because they don't have anybody on offense. So they might want to sign one of these guys.
Right.
But anyway, so those aren't the only cuts. There were other cuts too. Let me just pull one up. So there were two quarterback ones. I'm gonna do the less important one first. I'm sure you heard of this guy. He's been on a lot of teams, Mr. Josh McCown. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what to think of him. I really don't know what to think of him. He's had some very weird years where he's been surprisingly serviceable to a very nice extent. And he's also had some years where he's just arguably been the worst quarterback on the planet. So I don't know about the planet, but not been the best quarterback by a landslide. So let's just say that. And I don't know where he goes this year. I mean, Houston cut him. That's a little bit surprising considering they might trade Watson. Well, I mean, look, they're saying they're not going to trade him, but Watson flat out might just retire and come back or something like that. I don't even know if that's possible, if that makes sense, but that's how much Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston, and Houston just released McCown. So, whatever. I mean,
yeah,
wherever he goes, he goes. I don't think it'll be a game changer.
Yeah, and then the second one, which is more obvious, we both love this guy, even though he's in our division, or we thought he deserved the comeback player of the year, of course, but for some reason he got cut, Mr. Alex Smith. What's up with that?
Yeah, I hope he goes to a team that is competing. I feel like he deserves a Super Bowl more than anything. If you ask me, for anything he hasn't won yet. His job was taken from him in San Francisco by one of the worst people you are likely to ever see play the game in Colin Kaepernick. Look, I know you're laughing. I know you're laughing. I don't mean that. I'm not saying that to be I don't mean to be endearing, but if you look at what Kaepernick has done outside.
He had one good year.
He had one good year. He was way too overhyped. He was a piece of garbage off the field for 90% of his career. And now, that's who Smith lost his job to. And they weren't any more successful with him than with that. Whatever. I don't have anything more to say about it. It's done. As for the Chiefs, yeah, he was given time there, and they were close, but they really couldn't get it done. He had some nice teams there, but of course, we know who took his spot there. And that was a lot more deserved than the first guy who took his job, because now we think of him as the greatest quarterback to play the game, at least up and coming now, because the greatest of all time, we both know, is Tom Brady. But the guy who could potentially take that from him, and he's got a long way to go, and that's Mr. Patrick Mahomes. So, of course, Alex Smith lost his job there. He signed a lengthy deal with the Washington Redskins and was pretty good in his first 6 starts, and then injuries happened. And this year, miraculously returning, and I'm nearly positive he was I know he had a winning record, but I don't remember what it was. I think it was a significant margin, though, at least 2 wins above 500 or something like that. That doesn't sound crazy, but in football, which has the least amount of games, that's not, and for him to have started, less than a full season, that's not super crazy. So there's that. And, we were pulling for him to to do something like, yeah, it was nice he won Comeback Player of the Year and that he managed to get back on the field, and tremendous respect for him despite the fact that he was on a division rivals team from the Giants. But now he's cut, and I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know if anyone really wants him, to be honest, with the injuries he's battled.
I mean, do you
But I
think
don't think all hope should be lost because he has proven, he's still playable and that he could still manage a game well enough to win games.
do you think he's still a starter, or you think he's just officially a backup?
I'm going to go with the safe bet and say he's probably not a starter, but I would like to see him start.
Well, how many teams do you think could pick up someone like this or would like to take a chance on Alex Smith as the starter? I mean, I could think of very few, Like, I think obviously
this is going to surprise you, but honestly, like maybe the Denver Broncos, like they don't have a good quarterback game right now. They really don't.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I'm like, who's their quarterback? Like Drew Lock? Like, that guy's not really doing anything.
They thought they could win with him, and that was a short window. Like that window closed fast. So, look, if he can make it there and if he gets there, and I'll be interested to see, but I'm going to predict that if he does go anywhere as a starting quarterback, it's going to be to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I was
who knows? Honestly, maybe even the Jets. Like if the Jets don't do anything with Sam Darnold and they can't trade for Watson, like maybe they'll pick him up. Who knows? Maybe the Patriots. I don't think they're going to hang on to Cam Newton.
I was thinking the Patriots because I feel like Cam's gone, but I don't think they're willing to give it to.
I don't think so either.
Whatever that guy's name is, random dude. I don't think that guy's ready yet. So, yeah, I feel like the Patriots is like the most realistic, honestly, because I don't know if the Broncos are like, how many times John Elway has said he's found the quarterback and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's willing
Joe Flacco and Drew Lock.
Trevor Siemian.
Siemian.
Osweiler twice. I'm like,
okay, Osweiler was actually somewhat serviceable and played somewhat decent in his backup of Peyton Manning. As for Siemian, no, even when he started though, he was still serviceable and played pretty decent. As for Siemian and Locke, like no, and Joe Flacco just wasn't the quarterback he once was. So, yeah, I mean, like he's a backup now. So for crying out loud, anyway. But that's all there really is. That's all I have on it.
I mean, yeah, it was just insane, right? And then and then the Giants had their own share of releases. Of course, we released Golden Tate. And let me pull that up, and we released David Mayo, and I'm gonna look for a thing later. But like, what do you think about these two releases?
David Mayo, like,
You don't care. Okay.
Yeah. As for Golden Tate, he actually made a pretty decent impact on us. I keep saying us. I should not be saying that because either way, he made a decent impact for the Giants this past year. Had a couple touchdowns, nice situational player when they brought him in. He's not the Golden Tate he once was when he was with Seattle and the Lions, when he was in the prime of his career and he was playing, the caliber of a top 5 wide receiver in the game, who was breaking tackles left and right and a deep threat and a slant. Like he was if there was a term, like, I don't know what it is for football, like, but if there was a way to say like a 5-tool player per position in football, like he would have been that guy. Breaks tackles, has good speed, deep threat, short route threat, can block pretty well, excellent physique, good stamina. He's in there, he battles hard every time. That would be the guy. He was a leader, he was a captain. Like that, like that would be the term for it. It would be a 5-tool player in baseball, obviously, but however that translates to football, that would be him. And he's no longer that player anymore. So I don't know what to think. But it's not like he was bad that he had a negative impact. Like we lost games because of him and he just didn't capitalize on opportunities because it wasn't his fault. So, whatever. I mean, like he was one of my favorite wide receivers to watch just because of his tackle breaking ability back when he was with the Seahawks and with the Lions. But I mean, like right now, I don't really know what to think. Like I'll miss him because he did do some nice things for us this past year, but it's not like the worst cut in the world that we could have had, you know?
I mean, I just think if we don't do anything, it is a bad cut. Like if we don't
Yeah,
sign
no,
a
like,
guy
okay, fine,
or
that's
draft
fine.
a guy, then it's a bad cut. Because I actually think he was pretty good, but it's not like he wasn't expendable. You know, he was playing.
Yeah.
He was the closest to a wide receiver one we had. You know, like he was still pretty good, but he wasn't like a mainstay on this team. He just all that drama on social
Yeah,
media.
look, they have the intention of keeping Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard over him,
I
and
mean,
I can
yeah,
get
I'm saying
behind him.
like yeah, we have our 2 and our 3. Like all we need is our 1. We need our
Yeah.
1. We need him now. Like go get him, Dave, because otherwise we're screwed. You know. And then there was another release I wanted to talk about, but like there were reports that it wasn't like how do I explain this? It's a little hard to explain.
Official.
Like it's not that it wasn't official, but more like they're doing a double take, if that makes sense. Like
Fine.
oh, this guy's actually valuable. Now let's try to trade him. So it was Kyle Van Noy, right?
Yeah.
Apparently they released him, but now they're trying to trade him. And then I clicked on this, and like Affiliate said they didn't actually release him. Now they're trying to trade him. And I'm just like, wait, why would you trade him? And then maybe actually hold on a second. Maybe I'm reading the wrong dates. Maybe it's out of order. Hold on. That was 3 days ago.
These all are 3 days ago.
No, this one's 6 days ago.
Oh, that's 6 days.
That's why I'm like confused because so I don't know. The reason I didn't talk about it because I'm not sure what the deal is, but either way, Van Noy is leaving Miami. So what do you think about Miami getting rid of such a player, and where do you think he could go, or what they could get in return for him?
I have no idea. I didn't follow the Dolphins that much this year, in terms of specifics. We know they were a good team and they just missed out on the playoffs, and they've got a pretty solid future, if you ask me, Joey. That defense carried them this year, though. We know that their strength definitely was not their offense. Tua Tagovailoa was not amazing, but I still think he does have the potential to blossom into a solid starter. I think it's going to take a lot of time with him. But for him to have been platooning time with Fitzpatrick, who wasn't bad whenever he played, or wasn't terrible when he played. So I'll give him props for that. But, nothing about that offense really makes me scream like, oh my gosh, like insane offense. Maybe the up and coming running back in Myles Gaskin, but I mean, and Devontae Parker and the wide receiver, but nothing really much more than that. Like Jakeem Grant isn't a great wide receiver. And we mentioned Mike Gesicki, but he's not like an expendable tight end. Like he's a decent to solid tight end. He's definitely not, like a bottom end of the league tight end. He's definitely more on the plus side, but he's not like, all-star caliber, game-changing playmaking ability. That's what I think. So the strength was in their defense. To release Kyle Van Noy or to trade him, I don't know what they would trade for him. To release him obviously is going to hurt a lot more because they won't be getting anything back in return for him. And in terms of a team he could go to, I don't really know who needs a middle linebacker. So I wouldn't be able to tell that.
Okay, I hear you. But like just so you're saying, like whoever gets this guy, they're gonna have
They're getting a good piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all the football news we got today. So are we ready to get into I think I'm ready to get into hockey. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I am. So we're going to do 2 things in hockey today. And first, obviously, we have to talk about the Rangers because, Joey, I don't know if you're going to pull it up because that's
actually, I wanted to, what was the second thing?
Well, the second thing I think that we should get with the Rangers first because that's going to be the shorter thing.
But what is the Rangers thing?
Well, obviously, we got to talk about
I have something. I forgot to mention. So I think it's a little shorter. So I want to say it first.
Go for it.
Okay. So I don't know if you heard about this, but because it happened like yesterday, but hold on a second. Right. So we had a firing recently and now a hiring. One of the best teams, I think, I don't know about the league, but definitely in their division, the Calgary Flames, fired Jeff Ford and had a return with Darryl Sutter, the coach who brought him to the 2004 Stanley Cup Finals not so long ago, and the guy who had won with the Kings. We know which 2 times. And yeah, so what do you think about that? Bringing back Darryl Sutter.
I don't know what to think because he hasn't been in the league for a ton of time recently, but we know he has the experience and we know that he can go to the playoffs. We know he takes team to the playoffs that are not necessarily championship caliber, and he's pulled 2 Stanley Cups out of almost nothing for what a team was in the playoffs. Obviously, the names on that team sound a little bit bigger because both times was the Los Angeles Kings, and both times they were no higher than the 3 seed in their division. And their division was not super stacked, to be real fair. Like when the Blackhawks did it in 2015, like, yeah, they were the 3 seed, but like that was a stacked division. You had the Blues, who were the best in that division. You had the Predators, who were unreal. You had Weber, Yossi, Yarncroke, Forsberg as a rookie, who was unbelievable. Mike Fisher was on that team. You had a ton of talent on that Predators team, and on that Blues team, you had Tarasenko. Alex Steen was still there. David Backes in his prime. Jake Allen, who was mind-blowing that year, platooning with Brian Elliott, who was so much better back in the day. You had Shattenkirk and Alex Pietrangelo on that team as the first unit with Carl Gunnarsson and Jay Bouwmeester. Like, that was a stacked Blues team as well. And then the Blackhawks, we know because they won the cup. You had Kane, Taves, Saad, Keith, Hossa, like that, and Corey Crawford and that. Like, that was a stacked team. Also Brent Seabrook. Like, I knew there was another name I was forgetting. So that's not super crazy. The Blackhawks were the 3 seed and they won it that year. Then you had the Penguins. The names on that team, they weren't the 1 seed, but they still won it. But that team name is still crazy. And then the year after that, the Pittsburgh Penguins, again, same spot, they were a 2 seed. And then the year after that, the Washington Capitals, they were the 1 seed in their division, not in their conference. They were the 2 in their conference. And beating the Vegas Golden Knights. But the bottom line is that Darryl Sutter, when he won the 2 Stanley Cups prior to all the teams I just named, was no higher than the 3 seed, and that team was not super, super stacked. Obviously Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty were, and Jonathan Quick and Dustin Brown were like the 4 major pieces to that team. But other than that, like, there really wasn't much to it. You had Jeff Carter, who was like a kind of like solidified second center at best. Marian Gaborik, who was way past his prime and who was aging and really, wasn't the same player he was when he came into the league with the Wild and what he had been later in his career with the Rangers. And
Justin Williams.
Toffoli was young. Oh, yeah, that's true. Justin Williams also, Mr. Game 7. So fine, we'll give him that too. So they had five players that really weren't spread out though. Like 3 of those 4 guys are 3 of those 5 guys are offensemen. 1 is a defenseman, and the other's a goalie. Now, the goalie could take you far, and that's the reason they won it. We know Jonathan Quick stood on his head both of those playoffs in 2012 and in 2014. But if you look at like who they had to play also, like the Western Conference wasn't particularly very strong at the time, really, except for the Chicago Blackhawks and the Anaheim Ducks. So it's not super crazy. But then again, they were a low seed and they still had to fight, and Darryl Sutter brought him all the way. So I give him props, and as well as I do, Joey, that he knows how to carry a team that may not be a top dog seed-wise in the division, but he makes it work with the players he has. He's kind of like the Kevin Cash of hockey, to me. He makes it work with whatever players he has, with whatever matchups he has to play against. Even though his team might not have like a set superstar. And if you ask me, I personally think, I know this is going to sound really crazy, but this Flames team could be better than that Kings team. I know there's no Kopitar or Doughty or Jonathan Quick on this team, but you've got Johnny.
I think they got a Quick, man. His name is Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah, I'm saying like Jacob Markstrom's he's emerging as an elite goalie. Johnny Gaudreau, like nothing more to be said about
him.
Monahan,
Sean Monahan, Lindholm.
I think it's safe to say Monahan is a top center in the game. He's elite.
Giordano
was definitely elite. Mark Giordano was one of the best defensemen. You brought in Chris Tanev, who could have used a change in scenery, and I think that he's going to be fine, even though he's been off to a bit of a shaky start. And then you also got the good depth that this team has in Matthew Tkachuk, and you've got Michael Backlund, and you've also got, you've got Elias Lindholm, who they brought in not too long ago. And even on defense, you also still have guys like Noah Hannafin who come in and fill in, a young defenseman who's still trying to solidify himself as a top 4 defenseman. And I think he has done that. And we know what Darryl Sutter could do with defensemen, because he turned Muzzin into an elite defenseman, and he also turned, who is the green on the Kings? like another Green. His first name began with an M, like Matt Green, something like that.
Yeah, I know you're
I
talking
don't know for
about.
sure. He turned Brandon McNabb into a very good defenseman as well. When we know where those guys are at today, so I think that I think he's going to turn this team into a playoff contender. And even though I already said I expect them to make the playoffs this year, I think that kind of solidifies, the way they'll be playing the rest of this year on a lot more consistent basis. Then, like they're going to lose 3 games here and then win 5 and then lose another 4 and then win another 6, like that's kind of just how it is. I think that they'll be more consistent as a team going forward with him.
I mean, if you look at the standings, top 4 seeds make the
Well,
playoffs.
then don't pull up the standings because that's what we were going to get into after. So,
Well, then, yeah, sorry, go to.
I mean, like we saw it, like, so the the Flames, pardon me, not Kings. The Flames are not in one of the top 4 spots right now. And those are the only spots that make the playoffs in each division. There's no wild cards, just the top 4 spots in each division. I think the Flames could start to see a stride where they're going to be winning games and it's going to be at a consistent enough basis to get them into one of those 4 spots. And if not, to at least give them a spot to be in contention for one of those 4 spots towards the end of the season.
I mean, they're only 1 game out of 4, so they just have to win a few games and they'll be stuck there. It all depends on Montreal, who I think is probably going to go down now that they have a new coach. And I don't know who this coach is, so then I don't know. Like, I don't trust the new coach I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were you going to say about the Rangers? I mean,
we're going to get into the fact that the Rangers, even though obviously they took a brutal loss last night, and that's the fact that they finally got above 500 for the first time this entire season. They had made it to 500 2 or 3 times already. Obviously the second game when they lost on opening night, they won, and then they beat the Washington Capitals and Philadelphia Flyers and Pittsburgh Penguins all in 3 straight games, but not 3 straight. Sorry, they beat the Capitals and the Penguins, but in reverse order, back to back, to get up back to 500, and then they lost another game. So anyway. And that wasn't the Caps. It was the first time they met with all those teams. Anyway, with that being said, they are back at 500 after the loss, so they're not under. And I know last night was brutal, but Joey, let's just go over real quick because I don't know if you watched the game, but if you saw, there's one thing that that was huge for the Rangers in this game, and that was, well, actually there were 2 things. One of them was
obviously Mika Zibanejad had scored.
Bingo, you got number 1. You know what number 2 was, though?
Like, is it a good thing?
Yeah.
Jacob Trouba came back.
Bingo again. Jacob Trouba, I know a lot of people are going to be throwing him into the fire that it's Jacob Trouba and he hasn't been excellent for them. The way he's definitely not living up to that contract. Let's get something straight. He's still playing with a hand injury. It's still there. But now he's at a point through the injury where he can play with it, and it won't be as much of an issue, whereas it's so severe he wouldn't be able to play without it. So keep in mind, he's playing now with, I don't know if it's broken, fractured, whatever it is. He's playing with a hand injury that would be severe in a lot of cases. So props to him. He's battling through it. He's going to get better as time goes along, and the injury is going to heal as time goes along. And another thing that I wouldn't exactly say it's a gold star just yet, something they did really well last night because they kind of didn't try to do this. It just kind of happened, and they didn't really have any control over the way it was going to happen. But Keith Kincaid made his first career but appeared for the first time as a Ranger. And Joey, I know he gave up 2 late goals, but one of them really was not his fault. And the other one was just a perfectly set up play, and in reverse order. The first one, 3-on-1, very, very difficult to stop. And he made a really nice save against Kasperi Kapanen the first time, who set up the second opportunity to Malkin, which became a goal. The second reason, I know a lot of people are going to say it was his fault because he didn't play till the whistle, but it did look from the first angle. I don't know if you saw the goal, Joey, that eventually was not pushed in with the hand of Zach Aston-Reese, but I thought that it was on net, and I thought it was going in. I think he did too. So when I don't think he realized that he put it down and that he made the save at first and then the puck went in after. So, like he's not aware. He's got to be aware, but I still wouldn't 100% put that on him. And the fact that he gave up only 2 goals on the amount of chances he had given up, or that the Rangers had given up, pardon me, is still pretty solid, especially against a Penguins team. I know we've given the Penguins a lot of hate and a lot of criticism over the first couple of months of the season, the first month and a half of the season, that they're not the same Penguins. They don't have that championship caliber to them anymore. They still got Crosby and Malkin who could lead that franchise all the way. And yes, they can. But there are huge questions about the defense and the goaltending. And the defense, for the first time since opening night, or since I think their second game of the season, is finally back to their original top 6 defensemen, where you've got Brian Dumoulin and Chris Letang, John Marino and Marcus Pettersson, and they also have Mike Matheson, and I forget who their 5th guy is. When you say it, it's going to hit me, and I'm going to be really annoyed that I didn't get it.
Cody Ceci.
Yes, Cody Ceci. Like we were talking about Pierre-Olivier Joseph before, he's back in the minors right now. And that defense, I think, has...
Excuse me for a second. I just need to get my charger, okay?
Sure.
Give me 5 seconds.
I mean, I'll go on to keep making the point, but okay. And while Joey's gone, just to make it known for all the viewers that this Penguins team, Joey and I have been giving a lot of criticism to. We've been hard on them for their defense. We don't know if they could pull it off. I think it's official that they can. They started proving it at the end of last season. And you saw in the first game of the season, obviously, that it hasn't been super spectacular. But as time has gone on, and those guys, the guys who have gotten healthy, like Marcus Pettersson and Joey, in case you just missed, like I was just giving off to the
viewers. No, I heard you, Marcus Pettersson.
Marcus Pettersson, and not Chris Letang for so many games, but Brian Dumoulin, who was out a solid amount this year, and as well as Mike Matheson as well. They both were out a couple games, and it's nice to see them all back together. Obviously, like not as a Rangers fan, but good to know for their own sake that they have their original defensive core intact. They're all healthy, and they know what they can do together now that they played well. Because after they gave up that early goal to Zibanejad, they locked it down. There were not many chances. 5-on-5 play was pretty much even after the first period until late in the game. But again, like you still gave up 5 goals if you're the Rangers. Now, I don't want to pin this entire loss on the defense because Penguins did tend to generate more offensive chances than the Rangers. But I mean, like, to be fair, the Rangers played without Colin Blackwell last night, and they also played without, oh my gosh, there's another.
Panarin. They didn't play with Panarin.
Playing without Panarin, yes, thank you. I don't know how I could miss that. So I know a lot of people are saying, Panarin's a lot less in control than Colin Blackwell. But can we be realistic? Colin Blackwell has been nothing shy of spectacular since joining the Rangers. He looks like a completely different player. I think you can agree with me on that, Joey. And
I was actually about to just give a whole appreciation for Colin Blackwell. He got already 8 points on the season. Someone who's supposed to be like a bottom tier player already has, 5 goals. So
moved up to the second line. He played with guys like Panarin and like Zibanejad when Panarin was obviously still in the lineup. And yeah, I think that it shows how much they really are going to miss him if it's going to be any longer than going to this game, because I don't know what he was out with. I don't know if he was just a healthy scratch or whatever. But at the same time, hopefully the sooner they get him back, the better. And I hope that they do get him back soon. In terms of another thing, Joey, I just want to touch on real quick before we wrap it up with the Rangers and move on to the main event of the NHL segment, is that the penalty kill still is outstanding. They have the best penalty kill percentage-wise. I don't know if you saw this stat last night, but coming into the game, they have the best penalty kill over the last 15 games. They were 47 for 50 entering the game at 94%, which was the best out of any team in the last 15 games. And you also add to the fact that they went 3 for 3 on the penalty kill last night. So it's even better now. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think they have the best penalty kill in the game, man. I mean, I really feel that way. They stopped, they were on a streak, 20, 22, 23 straight attempts without giving up a goal.
I think
and they're still they don't really give up power play goals anymore. It just doesn't happen. It's great.
Yeah.
I think you gotta give credit to Jacques Martin.
Yeah, I was gonna say it just goes to show what a great job he's done. And against last night, his former team, the Pittsburgh Penguins. So,
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, Mika has always been a good penalty killer. You got obviously your pickups in Rooney, and so like it's just you got a good penalty kill going. It's a very special area of the game where usually the stars don't get to be in the penalty kill. They usually leave it up to like other players. But the fact that Mika, your top center, is like your big power play penalty kill guy is pretty cool, in my opinion, at least. And before we finish, I just want to say one thing. I also want to give huge props to Ryan Strome. I think he's having
Yes.
a great season, and the fact that he's doing this well without Panarin is either more
It
like
was arguably his
it's
best
either
line.
a justification to show how much it wasn't a fluke last year, or the fact that they don't have Panarin for such a long time. He's like taking it as a challenge, and he's like trying to step up, trying to take more
And
of the
he is.
pressure.
He really is.
He's got 8 goals already, 9 assists, 17 points in 23 games. That's not bad at all.
It's
So,
not bad at all. That's very good. And also, some good news, at least for we hadn't had a chance to talk about it, but Igor Shesterkin, who got injured in the first Devils game, is very close to returning, as Sam Rosen and Joe Micheletti both mentioned last night on the broadcast. So tomorrow the game is an hour earlier. It starts at 6. And who knows? They said he might even be ready for as early. This was yesterday, as what is now tomorrow night and Tuesday's game. And if he's not, they made an interesting point to know: is Alexander Georgiev going to be the guy in goal? He gave up 3 goals in 61 seconds, or is it going to be Keith Kincaid, who played very well for them down the stretch? I really don't know who it's going to be. I would like to see it be Igor, just to know he's back and healthy, or if it can't be him, to know he's on the bench and he's ready to come in if he has to step in at any point, or if they want to put him in at any point. So, hopefully they won't have to if he's not starting, because that either means, that'll mean one of two things. One, like they're either killing the Penguins, and that's great, or two, they'll be getting killed by the Penguins, or something similar to
yeah, these
last.
games are not going to be close. I can just
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
like,
first
I
couple
thought
games,
like when
but
they put this Smith in, I thought we had a chance. I'm just like, who's the hell is this Smith guy? Like,
yeah. And I do want to just point out, though, to be fair, the Penguins are a deadly team on home ice. I think they have the best home ice record right now, and with last night's win, they're 10-2 now. So yeah.
yeah. Okay, so let's get into what did you want to talk about?
Okay, so
Let's
Joey, I
try to
mentioned this
not spend so
before.
much time because we already been going for a while. But what
Yeah,
would
so let's get into the main event, and ironically enough, it's not really going to take that long. We're just going to run through the divisions real quick, as we did the last time, and especially with some of the new alignments well, not the new alignments, the new hirings and new areas. And
Okay, so which division do you want to start with?
you could pick the order this time, because I went through it last time.
Okay. You're saying the whole order or just
No, not whole order, just like, the recap of what we've seen from the top teams, and like, what we
I just want
based.
to pick East last. I don't care what else happens before.
Yeah, so I don't care what you do then in that order.
Let's just do Central. It's already here. So obviously Lightning are on top. Hurricanes are surging. That Storm Surge has been on a 5-game winning streak. Not a surprise. I mean, this team, I always say, like, this team has a good offense, a good defense. If only they had a good goalie, I feel like they'd be like the best team in the league. But let's be honest, I don't think Reimer or Mrazek are the guy at all. I don't even think they're that great of a duo. I just think they're sustainable.
It's crazy to think how they've allowed the third fewest goals in the NHL. I mean, not in the NHL, in this division, though. Only the Lightning and Stars have allowed less. Every other team has allowed at least 70 or more.
I think that's less of a testament to them and more of a testament to how bad a lot of the other teams are. I imagine the first and second team. I imagine the first and second team you're referring to are the Blackhawks and Lightning. I guess first and second in letting up goals. If I had to guess.
No. The Lightning have let up the least. They've let up 40.
Right, and second is what? The Blackhawks?
No, second is the Stars.
The what?
The Stars. They've only allowed 54.
Really? That's actually weird. Okay, interesting. I guess that means that the games are close, like 1-goal games.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Stars only have a 2-goal differential.
I don't know, man. I'm just like, let's be honest here. Red Wings are shite. Predators are like good on paper, but they're just not performing. I don't know what's happening in Columbus ever since, Liney's good or Rostovic's good. But,
to be fair, Roslovic has been playing pretty well with the Columbus.
They're playing great, but, two guys do not make a team. It just doesn't work.
Right. That's true.
So Blackhawks are playing good. you know, like they're just probably just going to stay in at the 4. Panthers, dude, man, this has been like
I think that we'll see like one of like going forward over the next couple of days. I think the Hurricanes and Panthers will probably alternate spots.
I think
Like
the Panthers are probably going to be the second best team in this division, man. They're not like before I was like saying I'm not having too much hype, but then I'm like, you know what? It's a very short season, so if they're gonna get hot, it's probably not gonna hurt them. They're probably not gonna. There's no All-Star break, so there's no reason to like get cold. Like
right, from having a break or anything, unless there's a
right,
COVID outbreak. That'd be the only other way I think it happens. But even I don't think that I don't think even that's going to happen. So,
right.
um,
So yeah, like what else is there to say?
yeah, not much. I mean, like this is kind of just how it is, and I would fully expect it to be close to the same order when by the next time when we do our next episode in a week. I don't think the Lightning will move out of first. Actually, maybe they will. Maybe the Hurricanes could beat them if they keep winning because they're on a 5-game win streak right now. So maybe there's something special with that. They have pretty similar records in their last 10. They both lost 3 games overall in their last 10. It's just that the Lightning had 1 in overtime, so they got an extra point out of that, as opposed to the Hurricanes who only lost 3 regulation games instead of 1 in overtime as well. So I guess we'll see. But look, I mean, they're 7-3 in their last 10, and they're on a 5-game win streak. So they're doing something special right now. And I think that maybe they could end up ahead of the Lightning, but let's just not talk about the specific position then. In terms of the 4 teams that are in the top 4 right now, I don't think
I
that
think
will
they
change. The
stay
order
as they
might,
are.
but I don't think the teams will.
Yeah, I just think they stay as they are with no particular order. Okay, so now we'd like to do which
Let's
division?
move on to the West.
Okay, West. So no shock here. Our top, well, obviously there's a difference. The Wild were number 2, I believe, last time we did
Yeah.
this. But like the top 3 is what I imagine the top 3 is gonna be. You know,
Yeah.
like I think, like first of all, Golden Knights, man, I think they might actually be the best team in the league. If I'm being really honest with you, I think, like it's crazy. You lose John Merrill and Nate Schmidt, and I'm like, but you lose Paul Stastny, who I think is the only real like big loss for this team. But you get Alex Pietrangelo on top of that team you already have, with Patches
Zach
and
Whitecloud joined, officially solidified his spot as a top 6
right, and
defenseman.
then and you got Shea Theodore in the draft and like in the expansion draft, and then you trade for Alec Martinez, who fuck him, but like still good guy, still a good player, I guess. Fuck him.
Yeah.
Braden McNabb, I think is on that team, right?
Yep.
I'm mistaken. Yeah. So like, damn, you obviously got Patches, you got Stone, and you got that 3-headed monster of Carlson, Smith, and Marcia. So Cody Glass, Chandler Stevenson, and then you got your big bully on the 4th line, Ryan Reeves, and you got Alex Tuck. Like this team is so good. I know you like love the Avalanche, man, but could you honestly say that they're better than
I was gonna get to that. I'll let you finish. Yeah, keep
but
going.
could you honestly say that you'd rather okay, I think maybe you could argue the offense and defense are like easily a good match, but there's no way they have a better tandem at goal. I'm sorry. I like Grubauer, but Francouz, you telling me either of those guys are on the level of Fleury or Robin Leonard?
When you're done with it, I'll
Just go. No, just answer now
Oh,
because
that's it. Okay, fine. So I mean, I know I've been telling you and I've been saying I think the Avalanche are the team to beat this year. They're probably the team that's going to win the Stanley Cup. And look, I know what I'm saying. Like they would be the team I would predict, but I think that if any team had the best chance of beating them, it would be the Vegas Golden Knights. And I know this is going to sound crazy. Well, Nathan McKinnon, I've mentioned numerous times over, is my favorite player in the world. He's my favorite player ever. I don't know if anyone will ever retake that title from him, me being a fan and all. The Avalanche are not my second favorite team. That's just how I find it is. Like so many of my friends and even some of my family members say, oh, like this guy's my favorite player. So his team is my second favorite team outside of, the Mets, Yankees, Rangers, Knicks, whatever you want to say it is, all that stuff. Like, no, like Nathan McKinnon's my favorite player. The Avalanche are not my favorite team. I enjoy watching that team play, but the Avalanche are not my second favorite team outside of the Rangers because like the Rangers are number 1 and that's a lock that will never change. The Golden Knights are my second favorite team in the NHL, and there's no bias here saying that because they're my second favorite team that they should win the Stanley Cup if anyone beside the Avalanche won't do it. The Golden Knights have been about as close as you can get in 3 straight years without winning. They made it to the Cup final in their first year of existence, lost in 5 games to the Capitals, who were playing hockey better than anyone else in the Eastern Conference. Golden Knights were better than anyone in the West, and eventually the Capitals, just with a little more playoff experience. And I know not that deep in the playoffs, but they had been there enough times over to realize like the mistakes they had made. And Golden Knights in their first ever year of existence, I know players specifically, like individually, had been to the playoffs before, especially Fleury and David Perron and Shea Theodore with the Ducks back a couple of years straight. But like they didn't really have like Stanley Cup experience level. The Capitals didn't really either, but they had a lot of playoff experience, and the pressure, I think, eventually got to Vegas. As for the year after, we know that BS call against the Sharks in the first round.
I don't get how that happened, man.
Yeah, like nothing more to say about that.
Yeah, it was a bad call, but
Yeah.
if you blow like all those like goals,
like it was both sides, but I think it was more on the fact that ref ball screwed them over, because if it weren't for ref ball, like they wouldn't have given up 4 power play goals.
Yeah, but like, why was it a major? Is like what bothers me.
Yeah, like I can understand you get 1 power play, fine. If the Sharks score a goal, great. The Sharks had a top power play in the NHL.
I'm just like, fine, you know, but you give them a 5-minute major for that, and I'm just like, well, but that's so stupid. 5-minute major, you score, they keep scoring. There's no clock. Like
I understand if you're going to call that a penalty, maybe even a double minor, but for it to be a 5-minute major in a game misconduct where the scoring is unlimited until time runs out, like that's just, that doesn't make sense to me. So we know what happened there. And then last year, we know how it ended. They ran into a white hot Dallas Stars team, and similar to what happened with them in the Cup final, just it happened around earlier. But look, they made it to the conference final, and getting that deep into the playoffs 3 straight years, they're really starting to remind me of the Rangers at the beginning of the decade when they made it to 3 conference finals or farther in the playoffs within a 4-year span. The only time they didn't do it was 2013 against the Bruins, who made it all the way to the Cup final that year.
Yeah, I think what happened with the Sharks, that's going to be their Bruins, you know? Like, I think next year they're definitely going to be in the conference final. I mean, this year, at the end of this year. If not the Stanley Cup, they're definitely making the conference final. I'd be shocked if they're not, because they're so good. They're so good.
I know I picked the Rangers to go deep into the playoffs, and I still think that they can make the playoffs. I don't know if they'll go as deep. I hope they do, but if it can't be anyone who wins if it can't be the Rangers to win, then I'll root for the Vegas Golden Knights.
I mean, that's who I root for, man. Like
to me, they're the most complete team in the NHL.
Like I'm saying when the Rangers didn't make it, like it's the playoffs, I was rooting for the Knights, man, and I was like, please beat the Caps. You know, I would just be so happy. It'd be like the funniest
I know I talked a lot.
Like, you piece of garbage, you lost to an expansion team. You know, like it would have just been so funny. And that's why
I know I talked a lot about the Avs with that.
Yeah, that's why if Seattle drafts pretty well, I'm gonna start going for Seattle. You know, you know, for success. But so
we went on a crazy tangent there. Let's move on to the
point is these 4 teams at the top are great, and the top 4 stink. You know, so it's just gonna stay this way. The Wild might get a hot streak and 2 or 3, but like it's just gonna stay how it is. I just don't see a change.
Yeah. You know, maybe the Blues and Avalanche will alternate spots, but I think Vegas is going to stay in first, and I think maybe even the Wild could like grab a 3rd place spot. Same thing. I don't think the teams will change. Maybe the order will, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that's all.
Right. So now North Division, and we were talking about it. Maple Leafs on top. By the way, people gotta stop clowning on the Leafs, man. This is like.
Yeah, no, they are proving.
They deserve the respect. Like, you know. Yeah. Like the Oilers, I feel like got more respect than the Leafs, and I feel like the Oilers had like 2 amazing players, and that's really like that's what got them that far. But they were never they're never to be a complete team, and I feel like they're still not there. I don't know if they're like obviously their defense is a lot better than it used to be with having Bear and Nurse and Clefbaum. I think Clefbaum's out, right?
Clefbaum's not even playing now.
Right, exactly. Clefbaum's not playing, so like. And you have Adam Larson. So it's just like –
And Tyson Barrie,
who I really like, who was formerly on the Leafs. But, like, Tyson Barrie is great, but he's a power play kind of guy. Like, he's not like he's just scoring, you know. Like, he's not a great defender. Although I really do like his game, like, at least on the scoring edge, you know. He's like a Tony D without the issues.
I think he's stronger defensively, personally, but whatever. That's just.
But I think the biggest shock is that the Jets are 2nd right now, and the Canadians are 4th. You know.
Yeah.
Also the Flames, I guess, but not as shocking. I think Flames are going to move up now after hearing the whole Darryl Sutter stuff. But yeah, Canadians, Flames. Actually, now that I think about it, it's not that shocking with the whole coaching problems. But the Jets, man, the Jets being 2nd overall. I feel like that's crazy.
I told you the Jets were going to move up, and
I mean,
I don't.
if I'm gonna give credit to anyone, I gotta give it to Connor Hellebuck. That dude
Yes,
might
he's been
might be the
amazing.
best goalie in this league. If I really think about it, like I think he might be
Yes.
the best goalie in the league. Like he is so freaking good. He's
I
so
also want to give props though to two specific players who stepped up on the offensive end of things most recently over the last 10 games. I know they lost their last game, but still, I know like they've been excellent other than that. And that is Nikolai Ehlers, a guy who's starting to become more important to them because Patrick Laine is no longer there and they were line mates. And now you've got Wheeler, not no longer Laine, sorry. You've got Wheeler with Ehlers and Scheifele and Connor now, two centers, two of those wingers, Scheifele and Connor the centers.
and
And
now
Connor
you
also
have Pierre-Luc Dubois.
right. And now you add Pierre-Luc Dubois to that and Paul Stastny. So they're set in the center department. But now the wingers need to step up a little bit more. They don't have Jack Roslovic anymore, who was also a center and left wing or right wing at the same time, but he's obviously not with them anymore. He played winger back in his time with Winnipeg. With that being said, Nikolai Ehlers is really starting to step up. And whatever they like, however it is working for them there, like they should just keep it that way. Like screw it. I don't want to see any changes there. Like they're playing well. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's what I've got to say. I think that like those two guys though, and him being one of them. The second one, as you just mentioned, Pierre-Luc Dubois, as you start to see him turn it on as he's reestablishing himself now, but in Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, like sky's the limit for this team, man. They got a lot of talent. I mean, I feel like their only real problem is defense, man. I really feel like their defense is very thin. Obviously they got Josh Morrissey, they got Pionk, who's fine, Tucker Pullman, Dylan DeMello, but like none of these guys really scream like,
Right.
defensive.
Look, their defense isn't that terrible though for what they like. They have what they have to work with right now, and that's it. So
I don't know, man. I feel like we haven't really talked about it, but the trade deadline is coming up soon. Like, what you think they're gonna try to buy a defenseman, like a rental, or what do you think?
this is going to be a long shot, but I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I would be, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. Like it would surprise me, but I don't think it would be the craziest thing in the world just for where they are to maybe go after D'Angelo. Like
I
maybe
knew
they
you were gonna say that.
yeah, like if they like, I don't think the Rangers are like I think the Rangers are going to want like a decent amount back for him because of what they were going to pay him originally and what he originally meant to that team. They know what his potential is, but I don't think the Jets would want to take too much of a risk on it, knowing what kind of guy he is off the ice.
I mean,
And,
the fact is, it's a 2-year contract, so they'd have to
yeah,
deal with him for a year and a half, and I don't know if they want that.
right.
So,
And
also, like, what would they be willing to give back? I
yeah,
don't.
like I don't think it'd be anything crazy. So
Right. So, right. So what I think the only thing I'm going to say about this division is that the Flames are going to switch spots with the Canadians. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, man. It's hard to say. I feel like the Oilers are just have too much regular season prowess to stay at 3. So I guess Jets and Oilers switch places and Flames and Canadians switch places. And I hope that doesn't happen. But I feel like just the way the team's going, like we hyped up the Canadians a lot, man. We said,
yeah,
well, you
and
did it more than this. You were like,
not totally yet.
this team could win the cup. I didn't know about that, but I did say they had probably the best offseason on paper, at least. Tyler Toffoli, Josh Anderson,
Yeah,
Will Edmondson, Jake Allen,
Corey
so
Perry.
right. So it'd be a shame if they don't even make the playoffs. So
Yeah.
yeah. What do you think?
I know I just talked about before how I think Darryl Sutter is going to turn this team right around, but I think it's still going to take him a game or two to adjust. And I think that the Canadians haven't been absolutely atrocious as of late. I mean, they've still allowed the second least goals in this division, and their scoring hasn't been so awful. I mean, they're right in the middle. They've scored the fourth most goals and they've allowed the second least. So I want to see. I think that they'll stay in the top 4 for now, but I don't think that they're going to move much higher than 3.
Huh. Okay. If you think so. All right. But okay, so let's get into our last division, East.
Yeah.
And
And we'll
So,
wrap it up.
yeah, 7-8, no shock there.
Yep. And it's, to
Flyers,
be honest,
the fact that the Flyers dropped is kind of a
yeah,
shock to me. And
it's not really much of a shock to me. I don't know how much this is going to surprise you. It's not really much of a shock to me that the Islanders are in first, to be quite frank. They're on a 5-game win streak. They're on a 7-2-1 record in their last 10. You know, they've only allowed 56 goals, and that is the second to least behind the Bruins, who have allowed 2 less than them. And their scoring has actually been pretty good. They've got the third most amount of goals in this division now. They're finding ways to score. Now, it does come with the fact that I am going to say, and I know I might get hate for this, you're just a biased Rangers fan. And even though you're like, I'm giving them props, like there's some excuse to this. The Islanders have not exactly had to play the strongest teams yet. Most of their wins recently have
playing the
come
Devils
from
and
the
Sabres.
Devils and the Sabres, and like they really just haven't had many challenges. If you look, I think at like 8 of their last 10 games are against the Sabres and Devils combined. And yes, they have beaten the Bruins consistently, but the Capitals they've struggled against. And the
I
Rangers
think
only played the
personally,
Rangers 3 times, but beside opening night, the Rangers have fought them hard both times. The Rangers took a game and they also lost a game. As for the Penguins,
yeah.
I don't really know what to think. I don't know how many times they have played. I don't think it's been too often. And as for the Flyers, I don't think the Islanders and Flyers have played a single game yet. So I could be very wrong about that also. But I like, to put it lightly, like the Islanders have racked up most of their wins against the bottom tier teams than they have the top. You know, the only top tier team they've really actually played well against is the Boston Bruins, and they've only played like 2 or 3 games still. So,
all right, let's be honest here. All right, you're putting it lightly. I'm putting it real. They're overrated. Okay, they're really overrated.
I think they are.
I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they're really overrated for what they
Yes,
are. You know,
I don't think they'll
but
finish in
I
first.
think the Bruins. I think the Bruins and the Capitals have way more like star power on their team, like people who influence wins than the Islanders.
It's not a competition, Joey. I don't think that's like it's not a competition. I think the Capitals and Bruins definitely have it.
No, but like they do. Like they're better teams. I really think that those two teams are better, 100%. They might not be as coached as well as, like Barry Trotz, who, in my opinion, is the real reason they have all the success. Like he's just like a good coach can give you success. That's true with the Knicks and Tibbs. So like, but that doesn't mean the team itself is like amazing. So like Islanders fans, like get off your high horse. You're not that great. You're good, but you're not that great. Let's just be honest here. Like the Capitals and Bruins have a lot more star power than you do, like by a mile. So when you start playing those guys on a consistent basis and you start beating them, then you could talk to me. But you've been playing the Devils and Sabres. And guess what? We did that too. Guess what? We beat them. So yippee, like good for you.
Yeah. Not much to say. Except for the fact that I think that the Bruins honestly could end up dropping out of the top 4 soon. I don't think it's going to happen right now, but just to think about what they're going to have going forward. I don't know who they're playing right now, but in a couple games they're going to be playing the Rangers, and the Rangers are going to want revenge, and they're going to, who knows, maybe they'll have Panarin back by that time because it's going to have hit the 2-week mark, 3-week mark by that time, and that's like, the earliest they're projecting him back if he's going to come back soon. So maybe he'll be back. I don't know. But Shesterkin will be back by then, hopefully. Trouba's going to be getting better, and they'll probably have Blackwell back by that time. So, I think that maybe the Rangers can put a fork in the Bruins' plans and really, like, just it's going to be confusing to them. So I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm just saying, like, going forward, the Bruins don't exactly have the easiest games coming up. And the Devils, we know that. I mean, they shut him out the other day in Boston. So, yeah, there's that.
So what are you thinking with the?
I think the top 4 is probably going to stay about how it is. I don't know. Maybe over the next week, honestly, like maybe the Rangers could sneak into number 4 because they do play the Penguins tomorrow. I think that they'll be looking for revenge with that game, and I think they'll have some pieces back. Hopefully, Igor Shesterkin can start. Hopefully, Colin Blackwell will be back in the lineup. And I know it would take a miracle, but maybe even Panarin. No, that's not going to happen. As for the Flyers, though, they're the next 2 games. Sorry, they come to the Garden in a week to play the Rangers. And I think that if the Rangers could sweep those 2 games, and they've already beaten Philly in Philly already, and I know they lost, they split 1-1 over there, but they could have easily won that second game too. It just really didn't help that they hit so many posts and like the puck on angle. I don't know if you remember, but there were 2 chances I remember where both Colin Blackwell, 2 chances each, where Chris Kreider and Colin Blackwell had the puck like right in front on a deflection, and like instead of tipping it across, they like shot it back into Brian Elliott or like off the post. It was so weird. But either way, like I think the Rangers are definitely capable of beating the Flyers in 2 straight, especially at MSG with the fans back and energizing them. And I think that they'll beat Pittsburgh tomorrow night. So that's a revenge game, and I think they'll be like, they have fire. I know like they just got smoked, and that's going to give them a reason to want to come back even harder, I think. Especially in a place where they've played good so far. Like this was really the first time they legitimately struggled against the Penguins. So
Yeah. So
that's what I have to think. I think but that's too much of a long shot for me to think right now. So it won't shock me if the Rangers sneak into 4th, but I think that the top 4 stays the way it is. Even if the Rangers beat the Penguins tomorrow, I don't think not positioning wise, but the teams will stay the same, I think.
So I would say that the Capitals are going to actually overtake the Islanders. They're only a game back, and I just think they have a better.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
So I think it's going to be Capitals, Islanders, Bruins, and I think the Rangers actually sneak into 4 because you just got to be honest with yourselves here. Flyers have been playing without what I think a lot of their stars, right? Giroux, Voracek, Konechny, like having all these guys been out for a while. Like,
Giroux's back, and he's been pretty good since coming back. So,
like the other guys, like isn't Voracek and Konechny and like guys like that, like aren't they out? Like those are big.
I know Voracek is back. I don't know how well he's played though.
Like their guys are just not at full health or not there, so it's just I think it's gonna affect them. And then the Penguins, like they're a good team, but we could beat them. We beat them before. Like why not? We have fire, and like. I don't know, man. We always play well in the Garden, like except for opening night, but that's really it. Like every other time, like we win games in the Garden. Like it's our home. Now we have fans, which I think is a big thing in my opinion. I know we don't have the same amount of fans as we used to, but I think fans definitely is a big factor in winning games. At least that's what I think. But yeah, I think we could sneak in that 4. But we'll have to see, I mean, like, I think a lot of it depends on when Igor comes back, Panarin comes back, stuff like that. We're also depleted. So if, like, I could definitely understand if we don't. But, like, if they come back, I don't see why. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've done it.
Yeah. Anyway, that wraps it up for this episode of the JJ Sports Podcast. But thank you for tuning in. If you tuned in this entire time, you're a real trooper. We really appreciate it. Leave a comment in the comment section down below on, if you want to see anything done different, let me know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think of, all the topics we've talked about? We want to hear your opinions, and we like your feedback. We want to hear from you guys to know how we can, what we can do differently to make it better for you guys, because we enjoy doing this for you guys. And for the final time signing off tonight, I'm Josh.
I'm Joey.
Have a great night.